All right, Tokies. Here we are, back at it. Podcast number 4. I know that I wasn't here last week, and I apologize. Rumor was that I was playing Magic with my friends, and I was, in fact, actually slinging expensive cardboard pieces of paper with my friends. Some call it adult Pokemon, some call it a mind flex, but I was there, and I got to give it up to my two co-hosts who joined me today, Ryan and Nick. I thought they did an excellent job taking over from it, so you guys were in good hands without me. Let's jump right into it. We're going to get our week 2 recap right now with some studs. Um, you know, Dolphins wide receivers, Christian Kirk, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. We had some studs this week uh, at the wide receiver, and I think it was all guys that we thought would be good. Obviously, we had some discussion about Allen Robinson or Jalen Waddle, and me and Kirby couldn't have been more wrong on that topic because Jalen Waddle looks like an absolute stud, and so does Tyreek Hill. I think that both of these guys are going to continue sustaining this kind of production throughout the year. Tua looks amazing. I hate the Dolphins with a passion, but right now they're fun to watch, and I'm going to be tuning in for some more Dolphins if they continue to pull up stuff like this. I mean, when you have 36 points from a receiver and then another 34 points from another receiver on the same team in the same game, it's unbelievable. I mean, they both combined for 32 targets, almost 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns each. I don't think those numbers will stay like that, but for now, they are very fun to watch. So look out for those two. Nick, you want to go on for Kirk for a little bit?
Kirby, I'm gonna let you take Kirk.
Sure. Yeah. Christian Kirk, he had 23 points. He seems to be, once again, just confirmed Trevor Lawrence's favorite target. He had 2 touchdowns. Everyone were kind of high on him going into the draft, like we've talked about, but he seems to have a real good connection. Obviously, the Jags paid him big bucks to be that role, and he seems to have filled it nicely. I'm just going to be haunted by seeing his name probably on a week-to-week basis because I had him available on the draft board, and I picked up Tom Brady, who I eventually dropped due to some injury woes, only to pick up Jalen Hurts in the next couple rounds. So could have had Christian Kirk to help deal with my injuries, and I passed up on him, so it's haunting me.
It's definitely tough. I have Christian Kirk and Amon-Ra St. Brown in the same league, so I'm feeling good. Nick, how do you feel about the Sun God?
Sun God has been treating me well. I'm feeling nice and bronzed. I have him in 2 leagues, including Toker's Lounge. We were all pretty high on him. He's somebody I was targeting. I thought his ADP is kind of where he was getting drafted. He was one of the steals of the draft and one of the best value picks out there, and he's proven us right. 12 targets both weeks. No, I'm a big targets guy, and they're getting him the ball. He's dynamic. They want to get the ball in his hand, similar to Deebo Samuels. You see him taking handoffs last week for some big runs. He's getting the targets at the goal line. He's getting targets, in the red zone and outside. So just all around, he's Goff's favorite guy. And the Lions are looking good. It feels weird to say that, but the Lions are looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's all receivers for studs this week. Into the duds, though, the duds, it's a long list of running backs who we thought would be better than they are. To top it off right now, though, it's going to be Russell Wilson for one of our worst duds of the week. I know we were all very high on the Broncos this year, but they don't look good coming out of the gate. Jerry Jeudy on injury. Courtland Sutton did well this week, but Russell Wilson does not look like the guy we thought he would be in the new orange. I know that they've had a lot of trouble on their offensive line. They didn't have a lot of time with each other in the preseason, and they just don't look synced up starting the season. So they're a team to watch, but besides Courtland Sutton, and if Jeudy comes back, I wouldn't put much trust in Orange until he proves otherwise. Some other names: Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. Sort of underperformers. Nick, Kirby, do you guys want to say anything on these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I have Derrick Henry in a league. He was, obviously a first round pick, someone who you kind of hang your hat on. You kind of look at him as a huge, like probably the highest floor guy there is, in my opinion, and it just hasn't been that. he looks okay, but I just question their play calling. Getting Derrick Henry the ball on these outside sweeps. It's like this guy is a monster. You got to get him going north south. And overall, I'm not too concerned with him. But it is definitely frustrating as a fantasy owner of Derrick Henry. But I just think he's too big of a talent and too good of a running back not to kind of get his. So not super worried about it, but kind of without that touchdown in week 2, he would have thrown up a serious dud.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of his performance week 2 is due to the game script because they got absolutely smoked by the Bills. And the same kind of thing with the Vikings and Eagles game where Dalvin Cook only had 6 rushing attempts. He's kind of been a dud the last 2 weeks. And I mean that game script as well, just they were getting blown out. The Vikings are to me always been kind of a confusing team. Sometimes they want to be a pass offense. Now sometimes they want to be a running offense. So some years Dalvin Cook is shining, and it looks like this year between maybe some bad defensive play, they want to be a pass offense. I mean, how could you not with Justin Jefferson? And they needed to, so they couldn't really rely on the run. But with only averaging 9 points over 2 weeks, that's definitely kind of scary and definitely a dud performance.
Yeah, I mean, two guys that we saw that did decent this week. They were running backs Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones. Two guys that I wasn't particularly high on just because, as I've said previously, I don't like running backs in committees. But these guys shined, running over 20 points in week 2, both of them. So, um, you know, maybe they can continue it throughout the year. I'm not sure. A guy that I was high on that is not doing very good this in either of the first 2 weeks is Kyle Pitts, though. I don't know what's going on over there with the Falcons, but it seems like they just want to feed Drake London the ball. Kyle Pitts has kind of flown under the radar, and if they don't fix that, I'm going to be pretty disappointed because I took Pitts third overall for as far as tight ends go. So if they don't fix that, it's going to be bad. We had our first negative points of the season for a defense, the Dolphins. I don't know if anyone has them, but what do you think about this Dolphins defense? I know you guys would like to shit on the Dolphins a little bit, so let's hear about it from either of you guys.
The Dolphins were included on the Flash or Fizzle from week 2, so if anyone listened, they would have heard some insights on how we thought they were going to follow up a 22-point defensive performance from week 1 going into week 2. And yes, Sween took the bait. He picked them up, and he now, everyone give a round of applause, has the title, the first negative point starter of the season. So that's a tough one to swallow. He instantly dropped them and now is moving to the Falcons, which, based on historical performances, it could be another negative. Could be the first back-to-back negative performance. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you listen to Nick's crystal ball, he pretty much nailed it right on the head again. Kind of a cupcake in New England. They're still trying to figure their stuff out. Young quarterback, new receivers, everything like that. I said followed up by Baltimore high-powered offense, Buffalo high-powered offense, Cincinnati high-powered offense. A team I want to stay away from. Again, a week-to-week play, great. Maybe when they face the Jets, maybe when they face Pittsburgh, maybe when they face Chicago, Houston later in the week. But this 3-game stretch after a kind of an easier one in New England, stay away.
Yeah. You never want to play the defense facing Lamar Jackson. That's just kind of an obvious thing to do. So look for a streamer. In other news, though, we had some pretty close matchups this week. Nick, you and Liv had a pretty close matchup. You want to discuss that and maybe some of the emotions that came with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, overall, I'm 0-6. I'm in 3 leagues. I have not won a game, and going into kind of the last couple games, Monday night, and then the two that are Sunday night, and then the 2 Monday nights, I had a chance of 2 victories in 2 out of the 3 of my leagues in week 2. The highest chance I had was against your wife, the mother of your child, Olivia, and it was looking good. I was up by 13 points. She had Diggs, and I had Derrick Henry. So you'd like to think that Derrick Henry can cover 13 points, kind of, in a big night. But it didn't happen. Diggs he was definitely getting the ball. He was getting his looks, which you know is going to happen. Henry had excuse me. had a touchdown early, and I was kind of like, oh, watching the time, hoping like, I can kind of squeak this one out. And then for those who watched the game, Diggs went nuclear. It was the Stephon Diggs show. He was everywhere. Every time a guy caught a ball in an end zone and rolled around, it popped up 14. It was, luckily there was 2 games. I could just switch to the Eagles game and kind of just get up and throw that on in the background. But it was definitely a tough loss.
Yeah, kind of bouncing off of that, my wife did win, and so did I. And just so everybody knows, Team Stevens is in first and second place in our friends and family league. So we woke up today with a pretty high feeling. Um, but yeah, I was in bed. Liv had already gone to sleep at this point. I mean, the minute the game comes on at 8 o'clock, she's snoozing. And earlier I think she said, "Ah, this sucks. I'm never gonna beat Nick. I have no chance now." And I kind of told her, anything can happen. I mean, some of your best guys haven't even played yet. I don't think Jamar Chase had played yet. He didn't really do it for her, but I look at the score and she's asleep, and I kind of like nudge her, and I'm like, "Liv, you're never gonna fucking believe this. Stephon Diggs has 38 points and 3 touchdowns. You might win the game." And she acknowledged it, but I don't think she really heard it. But it's at that moment where I looked at some of my scores and I realized, oh shit, Dixie has Stephon Diggs. I completely forgot about that, and now I'm only ahead by 2 points with no players to go. Um, Luckily, the after he scored his last touchdown, um, the defense then went on to get a pick six, and they didn't play him for the rest of the game. And I don't know if Kirby was. He said he's feeling a little under the weather, but fortunately, this time he didn't call in his resources to try to change my points to make me lose in the stat corrections, and I did end up taking a very very narrow victory over Dixie. I actually beat him in both leagues, so that felt great. I also went to Magic last night and won both games. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
That's a 4-0. That's a
Yeah,
4-0 sweep of Dixie.
it's let me tell you something. If you've ever been rock hard like I have, you need to be. Another close one.
I
Amy
just
and
want to jump
Colby.
in and
Oh,
do
yeah.
say, I took a little bit of my humble pie. Wanted to throw a little text to Liv this morning. I gave her a little Star Lord gif with him cranking the middle finger up, and honestly, I think what made even the loss even worse. She replied with the Patty Pimblett, my boy, with his little dance he does after the wind. And that's my guy, and just seeing that him celebrate on my face from Liv just killed me.
I didn't even
Killed
tell
me.
her to do that either. She showed me that, and I was like, "Oh shit, the perfect response does exist." In another close one, Amy and Colby, a Monday night matchup. Colby ended up pulling off the win. Kirby, do you have anything to say on that, or Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I could take it. It was definitely a close matchup. I think Amy was up, around 8 points going to Monday night, where Colby had Josh Allen and Amy had Dawson Knox and Adam Thielen. So with an 8 point lead, 2-1, one being a quarterback, but you think you're going to get some of the points that Josh Allen gets going to be offset by Dawson Knox. You pretty much think you're in a good spot. But sadly for Amy, that was not the case. And Josh Allen put up about 29, maybe 30 points, and Thielen and Dawson Knox only had about 7 or 6 each. So congratulations to Colby to squeeze out that win with a good quarterback play. Sadly for Amy, it's the worst way to lose when you have the points on the bench. It's easy to say in hindsight, but she had some options on the bench that if she played instead of some duds that performed for her, she would have pulled out the victory. But congratulations to Kobe there for squeezing that one out on Monday Night Football. It's always exciting when it comes down to the Monday night game. You hate it when Sunday night ends that you have to wait a whole 24 hours for the next game, but when you win on a Monday, it feels good.
I
Yeah.
will say Colby probably felt right at home because she's a Dixie when she watches these games now with the fantasy. She's so negative. She said, "I'm never picking up a Bears player again." She's learning the lessons we've been learning all these years. Stay away from the Browns. Stay away from the Jets. Stay away from Jacksonville. Like these things that have been for the last decade of playing this game. And she, played Darnell Mooney and it bit her in the ass.
Yeah.
And I heard about it.
Yeah, you learn
Tough one
hard.
to swallow.
You learn hard. You learn fast. You move on. So that covers our recap. We're going to go on to a word from our sponsor. We got a good one this week, so we'll come back after this. Word from our sponsor, Kirby.
Yeah, this week's sponsor is by Jmoore's No Dep. Do you hate saying goodbyes? Do you have zero regard for friends and family wondering where you went? If so, Jmoore's No Dep service is the solution for you. Schedule a time and you'll receive a phone call so you can exit any situation avoiding the awkward goodbye dap. They specialize in Irish exits during parties of all types and even nights out at the bar. And let me tell you, though, the CEO of this company, resident Jay Moore, Jesse Morelli, I have seen this work in action, and he is a pro. He can slime and weasel his way out of any situation, without even there being a whiff of his trail leaving the door. So if you ever need, some assistance, an excuse to get out of a situation, I would definitely reach out to Jay Moore's No Dap. He knows how to deliver.
No, it's great, and I love the new app that they just released. Previously, it was a call and text service, and now with the app, it makes it even easier to no dap on your friends.
Yeah, so go to nodap.com/tokies for 25% off of your first Irish exit. That's nodap.com/tokies. All right, welcome back, guys. We're gonna go into our first segment here. You've done it before. We've done it a couple times now. It's the Flash or Fizzle segment. We're just gonna talk about somebody that these guys did great this week in week 2, and whether we think it's a flash or a fizzle. Some of the guys on here, we have Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Noah Brown, Nelson Aguilar, Tony Pollard. All these guys did great this week. They're all, for the most part, wide receivers, except for Tony Pollard. I'll go ahead and just talk about Drake London. This is a guy that I was pretty high on in the beginning of the year, mostly just because he's really the only option at receiver there. I know they have Kyle Pitts, but it's pretty rare that they just singly throw to a tight end. So he was great in college. I'm high on drafting rookies this year. I wanted to find some of those hidden gem rookies, and Drake London was one of them for me. 20 points on 12 targets, a touchdown. He had a pretty good week 1. I think he got like 10 points or something. I don't think it was crazy like this week, but Drake London, I'm going to go with Flash. I think he's going to continue this. I do think it'll level off a little bit because I don't think they're going to continue leaning away from Kyle Pitts, because Kyle Pitts is just an absolute freak. I mean, he is a giant tight end body with a wide receiver speed. So I do think he will slow down a little bit, but I think you can pretty much at this point plug Drake London into your lineups if you have him, and just continue riding him until things change. Nick, anyone else?
No, I agree completely. He's a big body. USC produces, great wide receivers in the NFL, 6'4", 223 is just that prototypical guy. And they just have lack of options. Like you said, I do think Pitts will start to shine, but, it's a passing league and you need guys to pass with. So most teams have multiple options, and I think Drake London and Kyle Pitts are going to be those two guys moving forward, and he looks great early. Yeah, another guy, similar guy, rookie, Garrett Wilson for the Jets. He's looked pretty good. He didn't have the numbers to necessarily back up week 1, but week 2 he really shined. Obviously, the Jets had that huge come from behind win over the Browns, and Flacco looked really good. So the kind of the unknown here is the Flacco and Wilson situation. And when he returns, what's that going to look like, and what the connection is going to be with when there's when and if there's a quarterback change, or if they're going to ride Joe Flacco. But he looks great. Like I've always said, I'm a big targets guy. He had 8 in the first game, 14 in week 2 against Cleveland with the 2 touchdowns. So he looks really good. And again, coming from good pedigree at Ohio State, so they usually have their guys ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would be team Flash on him, but if we knew that Flacco was quarterback, I think I trust him throwing the ball a little bit more than Zach Wilson. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen with Zach Wilson, he likes to spread the ball or focus on the tight ends or little dump offs. So I don't know if I trust him long term if Zach Wilson is a guy, but if Flacco's there, definitely Team Flash. I think him and Corey Davis give a good amount of options for a Jets team that most likely will have to deal with the same type of game script as they dealt with Week 2 against the Browns, which is like a come from behind, pass heavy offense.
I'm gonna go fizzle on Garrett Wilson. I do think he's great, but I don't see it sustaining at least at this level that he has for the last two games. If Flacco's there more so, I think he could have a flash aspects, but I think it'll level off. I don't think the Jets are a good team, so I think they're going to be forced to throw a lot coming down from behind, and it worked for him this week. I got to give it to him, but I think it might have just been a flash in the pan, and I think it'll fizzle out going forward. Um, Noah Brown, another guy that I wish didn't have a good week this week, but he did. I have CeeDee Lamb, and it was kind of the first, sighting of the new quarterback with Dak out, and Noah Brown stepped up. Um, I am gonna go fizzle on this guy, and maybe it's because I have Lamb, but I don't think the Cowboys owner wants to see Lamb underperform. He came out this week and said that he needs to be the guy that we thought he could be in that number one receiver. And when the rich old racist says something, it usually has an impact on the team. And I think that he will start getting the ball more, which will cut down on Brown's performance. So I'm going to go with fizzle on this one. We'll see what happens with the new quarterback. I definitely don't. I mean, once Dak comes back, and honestly, they've been talking. I don't think this is true, but I've heard he could be back this week or next week. I think that's just wishful thinking, but he does seem like he's progressing faster than they thought he would. So if he comes back, I definitely think Noah Brown will fizzle, but I wouldn't trust Noah Brown to put him in my lineup this week. Guys.
Yeah, I think fizzle too. I think the Cooper Rush thing. I think that's really the only maybe a week or two more, a little bit flash, but long term is definitely a fizzle. Cooper Rush, they're the second team offense, so they've had that chemistry, getting all those reps together, which is kind of why I think you're seeing that. But Michael Gallup, who I'm huge on, he should be back either this week or next week, barring any setbacks. And then CeeDee Lamb is just such a talent, so I think that's a fizzle.
I would agree.
Nelson Aguilar, Kirby, what flash or fizzle on Nelson?
Fizzle. I just think you can't trust what's happening with the Patriots offense. I think 1 week it could be Nelson Aguilar, and the other one it could be any other of the receivers they have. You just don't really know. And right now he's a little banged up. So Jacoby Myers or who knows, but could take his place. I'm Team Fizzle.
Nick?
Yeah, I think it's an obvious fizzle. It was a 55-yard touchdown catch.
Yep.
So he had 6 targets, which was nice, but I still think Jacoby Myers is the safety blanket. And I feel the same way about every single player on their team and every option they have on the offense. And I think it's just going to be, a classic Patriots where it's like one game, one person looks great. The next game, they looks terrible and the other guy steps up. So.
Yeah, it's definitely fizzle. I think the only guy that I would even trust remotely is Harris. I would not trust any of those receivers. I think it's going to be a different guy each week. And like Nick said, he got 12 points on one play on only 6 targets. So the other 5 targets that he got didn't really amount to much. 5 for 55. Not really a stat line that you're putting in for a guy to play. So definitely fizzle. Nick, Tony Pollard, what do you think about him? He had a pretty good week this week, but his first game, what did he have? He had 3 in the first game, 17.8 this one. Flash or fizzle?
I like Tony Pollard as a kind of plug and play if you have to. If you need to throw in a running back, I think he's a great option. But I don't think, high points. I think you're going to see a lot of 8 to 12 from him. catching the ball, making the most of his rushes. It kind of seems what he's doing. It's going to be kind of a touchdown dependent. So I think fizzle overall, but I do think he's a solid option to have on your bench, bye weeks and injuries and whatnot.
Kirby.
Yeah, I mean it's flash for me based on the fact of where you drafted him. So, like we said, the first episode or the first two episodes, if you have someone, if you draft Zeke, you kind of want to get Tony Pollard at the end because you don't know how the game's going to go. Zeke's been struggling. I mean, I think he only had 5 points last week and Tony had 17.8. So for a Cowboys team that doesn't look like they're they're missing some pieces or with the quarterback issues, whatnot. I think they're going to rely on him more so than Zeke is going to produce. So I'm Team Flash. I think he's a solid guy to have, especially where you drafted him, and I think he's going to perform. Maybe not 17 points, but like I agree with Nick what he said, and I think for like I'll keep saying it, where you drafted him is a great guy to have.
Yeah, I think he's going to be Team Flash right now, just until Dak comes back. I think the Cooper Rush aspect really helps him out. You see these second string quarterbacks come in, and they don't look downfield quite as long as the first stringers do, be it nerves or inexperience. So I think there's a lot more opportunity for the second string quarterback to check it down to his running back, which Tony Pollard is the clear third down running back in passing situations. So I think with Cooper Rush there, he could be the guy, but once Dak comes back, I don't think I don't think his points will be this high, but I do think he's a guy that you could plug in and hope for 6 to 8 points every week. So if you're down on a guy or you're just trying to really get a guy with a floor, I think he can be that guy. So yeah, I'm going to go Flash until Dak comes back, and then he'll probably fizzle out. Moving on to segment 2, the Were You Drunk segment. We did have the Dolphins defense in here, but I think we already kind of touched upon that. Yes, you were drunk for playing a Dolphins defense against Baltimore. So we're going to skip over that because we don't really need to be redundant here. But Novak, were you drunk playing a guy who didn't play? I think the obvious answer is yes. You played Gabe Davis, who you didn't put him in your flex, which it's always golden rule. Last guy you have playing, put him in your flex in case he doesn't play. Then you can put that tight end in or the running back or whatever it is. So putting him in your wide receiver, you were already limited right there. So I'm going to say you were drunk. Nick, Kirby, you want to talk on how inebriated Novak was in this play?
Yeah, I mean, partially you get kind of screwed over having a guy Monday Night Football on the Bills. But you definitely could have, you're in a tough situation. It's either you take the loss or you drop a guy, which maybe you're high on and potentially may not be able to get him back. But it was definitely a drunk moment not to put him in your flex, even give you that out. And he lost by 20 points, so it was probably a long shot. Anyways, but I'm not sure what it was going to Monday Night Football, but you always could have dropped him and picked up maybe a Zach Moss or something like that, or another receiver that I can't think of that could have at least given you some points if you needed something.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that you could have dropped him, picked up a guy, and then if you were really super high on Gabe Davis is your guy, you didn't want to drop him. I mean, you can just go out and spend the fab and get him this year. That's kind of the unique thing we have with the fab is, if you're a Gabe Davis diehard, you can go out there and you can spend the extra, whatever money you want to spend on him. But I guess it is that weighing the odds. Would I have even won with any of the guys on the thing? Do I want to have to spend the fab, or am I just kind of, throwing in the towel, accepting defeat and, move on from next week? But anytime you play a guy that gets 0 points because he doesn't play, you're drunk. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to have.
Moving on to another segment, one of our favorites, the yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. We got two guys here, Aaron Jones, Mike Williams. I'll touch on Mike Williams a little bit. I'm thinking he's back. Obviously, with Keenan Allen out, Mike Williams is just going to be the guy that's going to be the target hog, and he produced this week. I mean, 10 targets, 8 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. He was the guy. I thought he was going to be this guy going into the season, but to start, obviously, it looked like Keenan Allen came in again, started getting those targets. But Keenan Allen is who we thought he was. He gets injured. He's old. He doesn't have that kind of sustainability. So I don't think Keenan Allen has seen the last of his bench spots. I think he will miss games, and I think Mike Williams is going to continue to do this. Might not be every week. He might be that guy that frustrates you, but I think this could have been the beginning of a great Mike Williams season. Um, guys, anything on that?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll let Kirby take Jones. He's the resident Green Bay running back guy. I had Mike Williams last year. This is just who he is. It sucks. I had to face him this week. It was a tough way to start the week. Him starting off Thursday night with a great game kind of seemed like he was everywhere out there. But 2 points week 1, 21 points week 2. Last year when I had him, he went 18, 18, 29, followed up by 1.6, followed up by 32, followed up by 3, 3, 6, 5. Then an 18 pointer. So it's just kind of who he is. He is Flash or Fizzle. You have to put him in your lineup. He's just a dynamic player. But he was back this week. We'll see what he is next week.
Yeah, and then we have Aaron Jones. Week 1, he only had 9 points, 5 carries, and after that game, it was a struggle week 1 for the Green Bay offense. Matt LaFleur was like, we need to give Aaron Jones the ball if we want to win. So they followed up, and with week 2, he had 15 carries and he had 30 points. I mean, if you watch that game, he was pretty much everywhere. He was slicing up the defense, whether he was running the ball or he was catching passes. So he definitely bounced back week 2. A little bit frustrating for me as AJ Dillon holder, but you got to kind of take it as it comes. And there's going to be weeks where Aaron Jones is just going to pop off like that. But they definitely need him to kind of sustain any offense because they're hurting for receivers.
All right, so those guys are back. Going on to segment 3, our favorite, the 3 gasms. We're just going to talk about 3 guys that did well this week, and there's going to be 2 guys that are the reals and 1 that's the fake. Going on to the QBs, Wentz, Tua, Goff, all these guys had great weeks this week. All of them finished top 10 or better, with surprisingly enough Wentz being the highest of the 3. So out of this lineup right here, I'm actually going to go with Goff as the fake orgasm. I think that the running back Swift is just having such a fantastic season this year that if I had to pick a guy that I think can lean on a run, I don't think it's Tua and I don't think it's Wentz. I think it's going to be Goff and the Lions to be able to lean on that run, to get big plays on the ground. And I don't think he is going to sustain a 26-point season on average that he pulled off this week. So I'm going to go with Goff as the fake one. I think Wentz is going to continue to have a good season. They have a pretty flimsy schedule to start. There's not a lot of high powered defenses that Wentz is going to go against, and he has been playing excellent these last 2 games. And I also think Tua is going to continue to do his thing. I mean, how can you not succeed with Waddle and Hill? Nick, Kirby?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Wentz as the fake gasm. Just don't trust him. I know he's performed well the first 2 weeks. I think, we actually, as it gets closer into the year, it's getting closer into the heart of hunting season. And we have a new and up-and-coming hunter, bow hunter, Sween, trying to get in the game and land his first kill. And Wentz is a big hunter. So I think as the season goes on, he's going to be distracted by all the birds in the game out there that he's going to kind of start slumping. I mean, I think Tua has the weapons. He's going to be, high powered. I think Goff is just going to be old reliable. I think he's going to put up a steady game week to week. He has the weapons. But I think Wentz will be kind of fall back into his normal role where making bad decisions.
Yeah, I'm on Wentz as well. I think we saw Tua and what he can do, and how the floodgates can just open up. So I think he's definitely not on anyone's list here. I'm with you, Kirby. I don't trust Wentz. I think he has some great weapons, but I think their run game sucks, which I think you need as a quarterback when things get tough. You need that to lean back on, and it helps open stuff up. And I think their defense sucks too. So I think that's going to be a struggle. Wentz has looked awful. If you've caught any of their games, he's just had flashes of just being terrible, and then it's just like the floodgates. Like I think, going into the second half, I think he had like 6 or 7 fantasy points. And then, the floodgates kind of open up a little bit, but I just don't trust him. And then Goff, I like his rapport that he has with Amon-Ra St. Brown, the god, the sun god. So I think Goff is showing that he's kind of found his own in Detroit, and I think their defense is on the up and up. They spent a lot of draft capital, and I think that's going to help, Goff with a little confidence and get some more attempts out there, in the quarterback position.
At wide receiver, we have Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and Rashad Bateman. Kirby, you want to take this one to start us off?
Yeah, this one's kind of tough for me because I said Wentz as the fake orgasm. It's going to be one of Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel. I think Rashad Bateman, just with the high-powered offense, he may be a little bit boom or bust, but I think his boom will outweigh his bust. And so with the two Commanders receivers, it's kind of tough because we don't know much about the rookie Jahan Dotson. I might just go him. I'm going to go him as the fake orgasm. As long as Curtis Samuel stays healthy, I think he's one, skilled, and two, has the experience. And Wentz seems to rely on him. So I'm going to go Jahan Dotson as my fake.
Nick?
I actually agree with that. I don't love Bateman. I'm actually pretty low on him. But Lamar Jackson is just so dynamic, and he's just going to get the ball. I do agree with the boomer bust. Curtis Samuel, I saw a stat. I mean, interesting. They're teammates, but they're both doing really well. Curtis Samuel, wide receiver 9 right now, through 2 games, and Jahan Dotson, wide receiver 12. So they're both kind of getting theirs, but I did see a stat. Curtis Samuel, 20 targets. Jahan Dotson and John Blank, wide receiver 1.
Terry McLaurin.
Terry
Yeah.
McLaurin. That's 2 weeks in a row. I think I've forgotten that guy.
We all
They're
have.
10.
Gary Terry, baby.
I think they're I think they're both combined 20. So Curtis Samuel, outpacing 2 receivers for targets. He also kind of falls into that Debo role where he's getting handoffs, which I like. Just kind of getting your dynamic guys the ball. So I'm high on him. I picked him up in some leagues. So I think it's Jahan Dotson, just because I think he's going to fall behind as Scary Terry starts to pick it up, and I don't think Curtis Samuel is going to lose his kind of touches.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with what you guys said, mostly for what Nick just touched on. Jahan Dotson has 5 targets in both of his games. So 10 targets and 3 of those are touchdowns. I don't think that's sustainable. If he can continue scoring touchdowns in every single one of his games, he's going to be a top 5 receiver, and I don't see that happening for anybody on the Commanders. So I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson. I think Bateman's going to be he's on a higher powered offense. He's their number 1 guy. I think he's going to continue to get his, and I don't think you can sustain what is he, wide receiver 12 on 5 targets a game. So definitely Jahan Dotson. I'm not going to beat the dead horse. We'll move on to the next category. Running backs, we got CEH, James Robinson, and Antonio Gibson. Nick, you want to take this one to start?
Sure. This one's an interesting one. Edward Solaire, we were all pretty low on him. I still kind of am, but he seems to be the guy in Kansas City, where the other 2 are looking like they're going to be more of a committee backs. Gibson is looking better than he did last year, but Robinson's coming back. I feel like he probably already played a couple downs last week. We just didn't hear about it. The guy got shot like 3 weeks ago, and he's already playing football. So I think Gibson, he's going to get. I think it's Gibson. I think they're high on him, and then they have McKissick and stuff coming out of the backfield. And again, their offense is. I don't think it's sustainable where it's at. So I think there's going to be a fallback, and I think their defense stinks, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. Plus, with Gibson losing kind of targets, but I do think James Robinson is going to lose some. I think ETN's they're winding him up. They're kind of being careful with his knee, and I think once he gets going, James Robinson's going to fall back too. So I actually don't really like any of these guys, but I think Gibson is the fake.
Kirby.
Yeah, I agree. Because this is a cross I'm gonna die on. I haven't been high on Gibson. He had 11 points week 2 with a touchdown. Other than that touchdown, it would have been kind of a bad day. Maybe 14 rushes for 28 yards, only 2 receptions, not great. I like James Robinson. I mean, they're feeding him the ball, and he's looking pretty good out there. 23 rushes week 2. Clyde has not he's been performing well, but if you look at his snap percentage, he's only in the low 40s with only a couple rushes and a couple receptions, but he's making the most of it. I think with the high-powered offense of the Chiefs, he with that limited touches and limited time in the field, he's making the most of it. So I think you can't. It's really just you're banking on the Chiefs being good and finding opportunities for him. But I'm not high on Gibson again. He's the fake.
Yeah, I mean it's obviously Gibson. Um, I think it's kind of insane. I don't think starting the season off you would hear us debating 3 Commanders players in a uh, segment like this. 2 of the receivers and their running back. I mean, at this point, it looks like the Commanders are going to be winning the division, going on and playing in the Super Bowl. But I don't think he's going to be able to continue that kind of success. We know that he has a guy coming in to replace him at any moment, and I really think it's going to be that hero story of guy gets shot, comes back. He's going to have that the fans behind him. He's going to have everybody rooting for him. How could you not root for a guy that got shot to come back and just have a monster season and prove all the haters wrong? So I think it's going to be Gibson. I do think Robinson's production is going to slow down. Like Nick said, I think they want to give ETN the ball. He's more of a passing catcher, but when he gets the ball, he's electric, man. He's explosive with his cuts. He's a fast talent. I think Jacksonville is slowly ramping up to be a little more of an exciting team. I was pretty high on Sunshine to begin the season, and I don't think he has reached his potential yet, but I think they're going to slowly go up there. And I think CEH is going to be boom or bust pretty much every week. I think that the uh, Chiefs offense at this point looks like they're just spreading the ball around too much, and they can, and they win. So I think they're going to continue to, it doesn't. The only guy that needs to have the ball in his hand is going to be uh, um, Pat Mahomes, and whoever he throws it to is just going to produce that week. So I think he'll do decent, but not at this kind of level. But definitely Gibson. All right, moving on to segment 4, Bad Boys. One of your favorites, Bad Boy of the Week, Mike Evans. I mean, we've seen this guy be a bad boy in many weeks before, but this week, he's got the game suspension coming up. He said he's going to, kind of try to challenge that. We know how that all goes. No one that has ever challenged a suspension has ever won it, so we know he's going to be suspended next week. And honestly, he might be the bad boy, but I think Tom Brady is the bitch boy because it was kind of the instigator of the whole thing. He kind of like went up, poked a bear, and then pushed Mike Evans in front of him to defend himself. So I'm gonna go and turn this around. That Tom Brady is the bitch boy of the week. Titus, if you've made it to minute 43, you're gonna like that pick. Anything to say on Mike Evans and his bad boy mantra?
I think it's like goalies in hockey. You always respect anytime someone's standing up for their quarterback. I said this before. When I think of Mike Evans, especially when he's going at people like this, I always think of The Game, the rapper. I feel like they kind of look similar. They're similar builds. And the guy's just a nutbag out there. I wouldn't want to mess with him. So good luck.
Yeah, and as the gif we probably all seen before of Terrell Owens saying, "That's my quarterback," so I support it. He's a bad boy. It's what you do. You back up your boy.
Yeah, you die on it. It doesn't matter if your quarterback's in the wrong. You can't let somebody punk your quarterback. So we'll just finish this off by going into our last segment, the bloody head injury report. We'll start it off, real obviously the big one, Trey Lance, shattered his ankle. Very, very disappointing. I was super high on Trey Lance this year, super high on the 49ers with him at the head. So it really stinks to see this happen. You never want to see a guy that you have all this faith in, a guy that you really think is going to have a stellar year, get injured in a way like this. It is the danger that comes with a running quarterback is injury, and this just hits it home that these running quarterbacks, some of them can get through it, most of them get hurt and can't play. So Trey Lance, we're sorry to see you go. Some other notables: Judy, Herbert, Schultz, Connor. I think the only real one that I'm worried about right now is Herbert. The fractured rib, he's kind of dealing with it. He struggled at the end. He did play through it, but he didn't look very good through it. That rib kind of is in that throwing motion, so we'll see how he does. They definitely need him at the helm. I didn't really see any of the other guys' injuries. If any of you guys want to touch on it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Judy. Oh, sorry, Nick.
Go ahead.
Judy, landed kind of awkwardly on his side on a little trick play. He hurt his ribs. I think his day to day, nothing too concerning. But if he does miss some time, it's definitely hurts the Broncos' offense as a whole. Other than maybe Sutton, who will benefit a little bit, but they're missing a lot of receivers, so I don't think it's going to help the dud Russell Wilson perform any better.
Yeah, I think the Schultz and Connor injuries, along with the Judy, we're still kind of waiting on more information. I know some of the Cardinals backups in the running back position were trending for pickups and waiver wire grabs, but I think all three of those guys could be playing this next week. Although I don't think anyone. I think Connor has the highest chance of playing, but I do think Herbert and Lance, obviously the big players there, just quarterbacks. In Herbert's case, when you're throwing and someone's running to you for sacks and stuff, you're still taking contacts after the throw, and that's where all the contact is. So hopefully it's okay. And obviously the Chargers have a huge fantasy implication with Eckler and Williams and Allen. So
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our podcast. We try to keep it short, and I think we did it compared to the first couple ones. So for, the week 2 recap and the 4th podcast, this is Dennis, Nick, and Kirby signing off. Good luck in the next week of fantasy football, and we'll see you next week.
thanks, guys.
That